Not only did the Denver Broncos improve in every single position during this offseason, all of our rivals also took a massive step back. The other day, we talked just about the dumpster fire that we are seeing with the Los Angeles Chargers as they've shipped away all of Justin Herbert's favorite weapons. And I think it is very, very safe to say that the Las Vegas Raiders have also taken a step back. Sean Payton broke a ton of streaks last year that made us thrilled and excited. And the one streak he didn't break, in addition to our 8-season losing streak and not making the playoffs, was that we have a long losing streak to the Las Vegas Raiders. We actually have not beat the Raiders since they were back in Oakland. I think that changes this year because of how bad the Las Vegas Raiders offseason was. We're going to break all that down and a ton more in this video. If you're new to this channel, I'm Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and if you love the Broncos too, it helps me out a lot if you hit that like and subscribe button. So I think just right off the bat, there's a long history in NFL football where you have a bad coach who is fired, and all of the sudden you replace him with an interim, and the players like the interim, and they're just refreshed by a change of pace, and so they outperform that for that new coach. And that is exactly in the market. We call it like a dead cat bounce, like when a stock drops so low and then it bounces back up, and you're like, oh, that's exciting. And I think that is what the Las Vegas Raiders had last year as they moved on from Josh McDaniels. And I do not think you are going to see that continue for a number of reasons that we're going to break down in this video. But we've seen this from the Raiders in the past. We've even seen it here in Denver. Like, I don't need to remind all the diehards. Do you remember one of the worst seasons of all time? If I had started my channel at that time, I probably would have stopped doing Broncos content because I was so discouraged. But it was the Nathaniel Hackett season. We fire Nathaniel Hackett and we bring in Jerry Rosburg, who no one had ever heard of. And he just, like, it was the best we'd looked. It was the best Russell Wilson had looked. And you're like, hey, we're maybe not that bad. And it had us like feeling hopeful because there was such a drastic difference for the players to have the structure of a new coach that they outperformed. And he went 1-1, which is a better winning percentage than Nathaniel Hackett did. But it's better than that. We beat the Chargers at that last game. And then this game against the Chiefs, we were in it. And I was like, oh my goodness, we're going to like end that losing streak to the Kansas City Chiefs here. We lose by a field goal to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And there was a long time in that game when I'm like, let's go, dude. We're going to win it. So we've seen it here. We've also seen it like with the Raiders. Do you remember just a few years ago after they fired John Gruden, they brought in Rich Bisaccia, who was a special teams dude himself, and the Raiders end up actually making the playoffs with him and then not choosing him as their head coach and instead going with Josh McDaniels. But again, I think they saw the writing on the wall that like, yeah, Rich Bisaccia is good, but he's not like a head coach material. I think the Raiders are much in line for that same thing. I think in NFL football, like you have a really tight line that you have to toe of being like an authoritarian, like a Bill Belichick who keeps players accountable and is like able to like set a standard and say, you got to meet this standard. And then there's like your players coach who is, like a fun rah-rah guy. And obviously you had Nathaniel Hackett, fun rah-rah guy, like, hey, let's have food trucks on the field for and cancel practice today and clear out the media room. We're going to put some Papa Shot in there, and the team meetings are fun, but there's zero accountability. That doesn't work. And the Bill Belichick model obviously does not work anymore with current players. And so you need a coach who is a player's coach and keeps players accountable. And I think the best example of that we've seen is like somebody like a Dan Campbell who's like fun and relates to players and like makes them laugh and relates to them because he played and he keeps them really accountable. I actually think Sean Payton is that same exact mold that, they're actually Dan Campbell and Sean Payton are great friends, and Dan Campbell's talked about how he learned coaching from watching Sean Payton, and he, hearing Sean Payton do the club dub where he brings and buys this insane sound system and takes it on the road. And when the Broncos win, he wants that blasting music so loud in the locker room with fog lights and disco balls and all that every other player's like, man, I wish I was a Denver Bronco. And that's like a player's coach mentality. But then we've seen the drastic accountability that we have. So the real question with Antonio Pierce is like, will he be able to toe that line? And I guess we have not seen enough, but I think history of interim head coaches would show you that we haven't seen enough, and we've seen so many examples of interim head coaches who killed it in the interim and then end up getting the head job and end up like flaming out. I think Jason Garrett was that for a long time. Romeo Crennel was that. And you just see more times than not the interim coach does not go on to have a successful coaching career. So we know we play the Raiders week 5 after our road trip to the East Coast, and we're staying long term over on the East Coast. And Sean Payton talks about how it's like a college atmosphere, and guys love each other, and so they're going east in that 11 o'clock time slot, which has been really problematic for them. And they're staying out there, and they're going to bond, and they're coming back, and they play the Raiders at home after that East Coast trip. And I think sleeping in their own beds, they're going to be like pumped up. They're coming back after that band of brothers mentality. So we're playing them here week 5. That's enough time to really get film on this new Antonio Pierce system, what exactly it's going to look like. And then we play them again on the road in Vegas after our easiest game of the year, which is a home game in November against I thought we played the Panthers right before them. So right after we play Kirk Cousins at home here, which that's going to be a tough game. But I think we definitely are going to break our losing streak to them. And let's talk about just a couple of the things that have been real bad about the Vegas Raiders. So I think the first thing is we've seen a ton of players like hitting the podcast circle just in a way where they're you don't see the drastic accountability that you see with Sean Payton. Like when Sean Payton came to Denver, you saw just Russell Wilson going from tweeting every baby he kissed and thing he did and hopping on everybody's podcasts to him going like 0 dark 30. And you're seeing that continue right now. Whereas you've seen Max Crosby hit the podcast circle. You've seen Davonte Adams. You saw Josh Jacobs do it, which we're going to cover in a second. And I think recently we've seen Davonte Adams just go off and kind of rebut the Chargers schedule release. The Chargers schedule release, they compared all the different players of teams they're about to play to different Pop-Tarts, and they put a trash can next to him. And he went on and was like, I'm going to bash their heads in the game. So in turn, he's actually like giving even more bulletin board material to the Chargers by like calling him out. And that's just the kind of nonsense that a coach who has like a lockdown locker room is like, hey, we don't want any more bulletin board material. So that's bad right off the bat. Then Aaron Rodgers is playing a celebrity golf outing at Lake Tahoe, which sounds fantastic, right? And listen to what he says here. And this is just like a little cray-cray right here.
Do you think Luke Getsy's going to utilize Davonte Adams good in the new Raiders offense?
I love Luke Getsy. He's a fantastic coach.
Awesome.
I love Davonte. Can't wait to play with him again.
So I love Davonte. I can't wait to play with him again. We know Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how many more years of a career being in a darkness retreat and doing ayahuasca gives you, but Aaron Rodgers only has like 1 or 2 years left. So this has led to rampant speculation that the Raiders are in line to shop their best talent in Davonte Adams to the Vegas Raiders. And so I think like that's bad right off the bat that the only real offensive weapon they have left is Davonte Adams, and it's looking like he's on the trade circuit right now, or like in trade rumors. Tons of Jets players after this went have gone on record talking about how excited they would be to play with him. So that's not a great thing for the Raiders. That's like literally their only good piece left, and now they don't have a quarterback to throw to that great star receiver. And so are they actually trying to rebuild this thing? And so moving on from Davonte, man, I'm not scared of that offense even a little bit if Davonte Adams is off of there. And even if he is on there, Davonte was on record talking about how Pat Surtain was the best cornerback that he faces. And I think that's a really good matchup for us. They don't have a stud tight end like Darren Waller anymore, who always seemed to get open against us, so we never could stop him. And so you're talking about like your only weapon in addition to Josh Jacobs, who is now gone. But you're looking, they did have a couple decent moves. They got Christian Wilkins, and they gave him a massive bag, and he's got a huge deal. He is a very good defensive tackle, and so him with Max Crosby on the outside is scary. defensively, but I am not even scared of this offense at all, knowing that they moved on from their star running back. They don't have a good tight end, and you would not even be able to tell me their other wide receivers. So if Davonte's gone and they got Gardner Minshew throwing to nobody or Aiden O'Connell throwing to nobody, that is a really, really good thing. That in addition to Josh Jacobs coming out and just putting that entire franchise on blast and literally saying, the Raiders wanted me to take a hometown discount to lose. And he just talked multiple times about how the losing culture of the Vegas Raiders was wearing on him, and that's why he decided to go to the Green Bay Packers. So I just see internally that the dam is breaking and that the Denver Broncos are going to break the losing streak against the Vegas Raiders because it's a fire sale. Put in an offer, and Davonte is yours, and we have a ton to believe in.